For nearly 130 years, the Scranton State School for the Deaf sat as a shining beacon on the corner of North Washington Avenue and Greenridge Street. Generations of deaf and hard-of-hearing children attended this school and acquired the education and skills needed to live productive lives. But in 2009, the unthinkable was about to happen. Elimination of state funding threatened the school's very existence. Thanks to a great staff, support of the community, and the strong will and leadership of two strangers who came to town, the school is now a nationally recognized example of successful deaf education. Cathy Forson was born in St. Augustine, Florida. A sports lover, Cathy joined her Catholic school's teams and competed against teams from the nearby Florida School for the Deaf and Blind. At the age of 12, she told her mom she wanted to learn how to talk with her hands like the Florida School for the Deaf kids did, so her mom took her to night classes to learn sign language. After high school, Cathy graduated with a major in phys ed in the first class of the new Flagler College in St. Augustine, and later earned a master's degree in deaf education. She eventually ended up teaching at the Florida School for the Deaf. Don Rhoten was born with a progressive hearing loss. Growing up in northern Maryland, his days in grade school were very frustrating.
I had no support back in the 50s and 60s. The feeling of isolation, not having a large social group, always apologizing for themselves, apologizing for not hearing what people said, not having a lot of confidence.
After high school, Don briefly studied industrial engineering while playing baseball at the University of Baltimore, but quickly switched his major to history. He spent a couple of weeks in law school before he found out about the deaf education program at nearby Western Maryland College, and he's worked in the field ever since. A job at Florida School for the Deaf brought Don to St. Augustine, where he met Cathy.
I would go to a pizza parlor. It was called Pizza House. And they had great food, but lousy service. She was a manager. She was a manager. She was the cook. She was a waitress. She did it all. And I was a nice, sociable person, and I would tease her. And she had an attitude. She felt that I was a jerk. Who could believe that? And that was maybe 5 years before we started dating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he had an attitude.
Over the years, romance blossomed, and it was finally time to meet the parents.
I drove her to Maryland to meet my family. And while we were in Maryland, I got a telephone call from a person in Colorado, asked me to come right now and interview for the principal job in Colorado. So that meant leaving her alone with my parents, who she just met.
24 hours before.
And I flew to Colorado for 2 days and left her alone with my parents, who she just met. So I came back, and my parents loved her, and while I was gone, she washed and waxed my truck, which was really very nice. So she was definitely a keeper.
Don did get that job in the Rocky Mountain State and married his sweetheart. They eventually started a family, and advancing his career, moved to Philly for 5 years at the Pennsylvania School for the Deaf, and then back to St. Augustine, where Cathy returned to teaching at the Florida School, and Don worked for Gallaudet University. Perhaps the most impactful move that Don and Cathy made was their last. Starting in 1993, and for the next 22 years, Don would act as Executive Director and CEO of the Western Pennsylvania School for the Deaf. Working with dedicated individuals, they shared their passion for educating deaf and hard-of-hearing children and turned WPSD into the largest comprehensive center for deaf education in Pennsylvania.
Really, when he was hired, he was kind of hired with the understanding that I would work also. Okay?
There was a 2-4.
Right, kind of.
That was not our idea, it was the board's
Yeah, right.
idea. They basically said, you'll work here.
Because at Florida School for the Deaf and Blind, I had supervised the special needs program, which is the multiply involved student program. And so when we came to Pittsburgh, that's what they wanted me to do, was to supervise that group of students. And that was the love that I really, really enjoyed doing that. So for sure, I was ready to accept that. There was no problem doing that.
Developing a rigorous curriculum, a comprehensive program of technology, sports, and after-school activities, a residential program, and an opportunity for students to mainstream into vocational training centers and the students' homeschool district, WPSD became a model for schools of its kind across the nation. But a new opportunity would confront the Rhotens that was perhaps their biggest challenge to date. In January of 2009, Don got a call from the Pennsylvania Department of Education in Harrisburg. Governor Rendell had cut the Scranton State School for the Deaf from the new budget, and the school would close in June. The state wanted WPSD to take over the local school.
And it really wasn't a takeover, okay? It really was a separation, okay, and an establishment of a new school, okay? But that confusion really led to more confusion. People were just angry. They thought for sure we were coming in and taking over SSSD, and that wasn't it. The state was closing the state school for the deaf. WPSD was establishing a new school for the deaf, very different.
Because of the confusion, Scranton residents became up in arms, afraid their children would be sent to Pittsburgh, and protests took place to convince the governor and the legislature to save our school.
Some of the parents wouldn't even allow us to have the names of their student, or their names to start with,
They hated us.
Yeah.
They hated us.
Yeah. But it's understandable. I mean, they didn't know us. I mean, they were clueless who we strange people were that was coming into Scranton, And so, yeah, they resisted us for sure.
The Rhotens worked tirelessly, putting in countless hours of intense and comprehensive negotiations with the state, developing a creative new plan for the school and discussing its implementation with faculty and staff. Don and Cathy moved to the area, working their master plan so that everything would start as normal on the first day of the new school year. The current building needed extensive and expensive repair work, so the Rhotens began looking for a new facility. The former Lordsmouth School in South Abington Township was purchased in July of 2010, and renovations began immediately. A residential program was also planned, and one of the other buildings on the new campus was vacated and renovated in an amazing time of just 4 weeks.
It was a convent, and there are 13 nuns living in the convent. We were under a time pressure that we had to kick them out and renovate the convent 1 month for our residential program. So we kicked them out.
Nicely. You bought it.
We relocated them.
Yes.
I tell people there must be a special place in hell for a person that evicts nuns from their convent.
The former Scranton campus closed in fall of 2011, and all classes moved to the new site. At the Scranton School for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Children, the curriculum is academically sound, rewarding, and challenging to the student. The arts, physical education, and technology play a vital role in the education of the whole child. Also, a variety of services are provided to the student and their family.
This school, Scranton, Clark Summit, okay, is a family, okay? People support each other, people want each other to succeed, people are here for each other, and that's what's just so important. It's not one person, it's not Don Rhoten, it's not JK, it's not one person, it's the family, it's the group.
They had all the tools, they didn't have the support, and they didn't have the leadership, and I think we gave them that.
Don and Cathy recently retired from their roles at the Western Pennsylvania School for the Deaf and the Scranton School, but they have had a lasting impact on the school and the community. Their leadership, Vision, dedication, and foresight made the Scranton School for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Children an amazing example of what deaf education should be for the future.
It's an honor for us to be here. It's an honor to be recognized by the Scranton community because we feel that we'll always be a part of the Scranton community. It's an honor to be with the other recipients and congratulate them and their families. It really came as a surprise to us that we were selected. It means a great, great deal to us. This is not saying goodbye to the Scranton community. We'll be here for car shows, for galas, for the full marathon if we're invited. We feel a very, very strong attachment to Scranton, and we always will. They had high expectations for us, and I think that we've worked hard to live up to their expectations. We made promises to the community, and I think we've fulfilled those promises. So it's just thank you very much for the honor, and we really feel blessed.
And a special thank you to Mrs. Casey and the family. It was a shock when my name was even mentioned. I went, ooh, me, wow, I didn't expect this, okay. This is not an award for Don and I. It's an award representing many people from Scranton, people from Clark Summit. So we thank all of you who has helped us to do what we've been part of doing, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.